from the rider point of view. Okay, so in my opinion, and again, everyone has their own opinions on this, but I think our posture as a rider is probably the most important thing. When it comes down to it, no matter what modality you're doing, no matter what style, English, Western, bell racing and roping, dressage, trail riding, anything, it all comes down to our personal posture as well as the horse's posture, which in other words we call collection. So while we're moving, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that. We're just going to start off with some pelvic rocks. So what we're going to do is we're going to be sideways, or not sideways on, I'm going to be sideways on. Our legs are going to be bent, and just a soft bend at the knees. And all we're going to be doing is just thinking about rotating through the hips, sending our tailbone underneath us, really squeezing those abs backwards, and then just rotating through the hips again, coming on up, and even thinking like a little bit of extension and length through the lower back. And then again, rotating back, really curl those abs back and squeeze those lower abs, and then curling yourself all the way back on up. Okay, so while we're doing these, as you guys know, because you've been told 1,000,002 times in every single clinic, a collection with a horse. So that's coming from the abs lifting and the glutes engaging in order to power their movement and get them moving out from underneath themselves so then they don't feel like they're all in their forearms. It makes that nice, soft, supple, kind of bouncy and lengthened feeling, which I'm sure everyone would want to feel that themselves too. So for us as people, we also have to work from that very same powerhouse in a slightly different way. So we've got to think about lifting through our abs, which supports and stabilizes our back, and then using our glutes because they're such big, strong muscles to stabilize our bodies and to control our hips. So very, very similar sort of viewpoint. So when you're sitting on your horse, I want you to think about when you're moving, curling those abs and then releasing and extending through the spine and kind of moving with them and using those glutes as you come up to really kind of stick your booty out a little bit to move with the horse. This will not only make their movement easier when you're moving with them, but it'll also feel nicer for you. It doesn't feel like you're just kind of sitting here bracing yourself and waiting for, I don't know what to happen, but whenever you brace yourselves, it's never something good. And this goes for everything. Even when you're in 2-point, you've got to really think about engaging your abs so you protect your back and it's supported while sticking your glutes out and you're kind of squeezing there so then your legs is not just all in your quads, which doesn't feel very nice. Anyways, from here, we're going to go into a bit of a twist. So we're going to take one leg over the other. You can bring that kind of elbow, upper arm there, and then twisting. And take a moment here and notice you twist through your rib cage. When you're like this, your hips kind of can't shift and move with you. So really focus on twisting right through your ribs and not letting anything else change. Untwisting, and then we are going to switch legs. So again, maintain that posture. You can bring that arm over, twist through your spine. Don't let your hips or your lower body change. When we bring this focus as well to our lower bodies and to our abs, what it does is it creates that center of balance and that balance point. It's really important, and I'll post some pictures on some like before and after a project, especially with my mom, on how the balance point changes when we're properly engaging and have the muscular development in our glutes and our abs. Okay, so from here, we're also going to do some sitting twists. As you'll notice, I'm doing a couple extra twists here. So feet are going to be together. If you wanted to, you can put them against a wall, squeezing those ankles. And again, you're trying not to let your hips shift. Because if you let your hips shift as you twist, you'll see my feet kind of splay, and that's not good. Because when you think if we're riding and we don't actually want to turn our horse, we've got to be able to have the control to twist through our rib cage and twist through our spine without shifting our balance point. See, my balance is still straight in the middle. I'm not turning from one side or the other. Straight through the spine, nothing shifts in my lower body, nothing shifts in my weight, and then untwisting. and then twisting the other way. And as we're doing this, just kind of like breathe easy and moving about. And just kind of notice, there will be one side that you twist easier to. There's going to be one side that you want to cheat more on. Maybe sitting in this L sit is really difficult and you start feeling it in your quads, in which case think about lifting through your abs, engaging there, relaxing through your legs a little. They will be turned on, don't get me wrong, but just try to relax in them. And we're going to do one more on both sides. And then there. Cool. So from here, I'm going to turn down some of my face so they can see a little bit better. If you wanted to, you could be against a wall, or you could just be sitting up as tall as you can. If you find it really hard to sit in this L sit, by all means, have a soft bend in your knees, but get your spine nice and long. And then, easier version, the version that we're going to try out first, hands are going to be behind us, so we have something to kind of press on. Harder version, the hands can either be in front or no hands at all. What we're going to do is we're going to be lifting up our straight leg, or if you're in this case, straightish leg. So, thinking about sitting up nice and tall, and we're going to be working the hip flexors here. And you may be thinking, oh my god, I don't want to work the hip flexors, they're already tight because I ride so much, and we always sit with a slight bend in our knees, in our hips. Well, what if I told you that the reason why they're really tight is A, because they're never stretched out, and B, because they're really weak because we always sit that way. Yeah. So what we gotta do is not only think about stretching them out, but giving them the muscular support so that when they are working, that they're actually working. They're not just tightening up and tensing, which that may be what this feels like right now. So if you're feeling like this is too easy, by all means, take your hands off or even lean a little bit further forward. And then we're going to take this, we're going to go a little wider than our hip distance. Again, find that nice comfortable spot for your hands, lifting up and switching. Think about nice, long, tall spine. Try not to let your weight shift backwards and forwards. It's really hard. You'll notice one leg likes to go higher than the other. But this is also really good when we're thinking about when we're riding and we want to bring the leg off of the shoulder in order to make room or open that door. Instead of throwing your leg out, which actually throws your balance and all of your weight out of whack, because you're just literally throwing however much, for me, it's probably like 30 pounds, just like over to one side to move my leg. If I just lift my leg a little bit to open up the shoulder and to take the weight off the shoulder, or take the leg out of the way, well, I don't shift my weight then, which we'll talk more about in the next video when we're on a ball, and you'll get to see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So from here, we're going to come into a bit of a straddle, and whatever feels right for you, if you're feeling gung-ho, you can try it like way out here or closer to a side split. I don't know your range. But I'm going to go somewhere comfortable. Hands are going to be in the middle now if you can. I'm just thinking about that nice lifted abs. You're trying to sit up straight. We're just going to do a couple more out here. And if this is really hard and you know what, it's hard for everyone because we spend so much time sitting, especially right now. You're going to do one last one on each side. There you go. Okay, so then we're going to do some sideline leg series. And I know you're thinking, but this is supposed to be mobility, not an absolute workout. Well, to me, mobility is the combination of strength and flexibility. So you don't just get one, you get both. Sorry if you're hearing a weird spraying sound. I don't know what my neighbor's doing. We have all this space in between, but she insists on swimming right next to us. So we're going to be laying down on our side. Top hand's going to be down. Bottom hand's going to be underneath our head. If that doesn't feel comfortable for you, by all means, bring your head down onto your bicep, grab a pillow, elbow bent, whatever feels right for you. And then from here, we're just going to work on turning the leg out and turning it in just by squeezing your glutes. So you shouldn't feel like you're just flicking your toes out or flicking them in. It's just your glutes squeezing. That turns your legs out and in. well, whatever feels better for you. And then we're gonna be kicking the leg forward and then to the back. And while you're doing this, I want you to think about that posture through your spine, which I know is weird to think about when you're laying on your side. But think if you had a soft arch in your back, if you kept your hips nice and steady, and how it feels and how much control you need to have in order to move your leg forwards and backwards without rocking around. And it doesn't need to be a huge range. You're gonna do this last one here. Nice, and then you're gonna bring your leg over top of your other leg. Hips stay stacked. It's gonna wanna flop and come back. The hips stay stacked. You still got that little bit of room underneath your waist. Even if you're down on your side, there's still that bit of space. And then you're going to lift up and back on down. By this point, you should probably feel a soft burning in your glutes. Maybe on the outside of your leg. And you're just thinking about keeping those hips nice and stacked. Nice, one last one. Awesome, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a couple little circles. So, don't have to be full range, but keep the hips as stable as possible. You're kicking forward, you're going up, you're going to the back, and then back in again. We're just gonna do 3 both ways because you know what? 3 is all we need. Once you've done your third one, reverse. Again, focusing on keeping the hips and the spine nice and steady. I know it's hard, and I know it's a lot to think about. Last one there. Nice. And then from here, we're just going to go ahead and do our other side. So you can either roll on over, or you can just flip over like I am. So, other side, we laying down, then hands either underneath your head, or you're down on your side entirely. And then again, think you've got that little bit of space here because your spine is a nice straightish line. Obviously, depending on your forearm, you're going to be a little higher up in your neck. Top leg's going to be up about hip height, and we're just turning it in and out. So yeah, big takeaways from this video will be that we need to work the same way we're expecting our horses to work and the same amount. You know what? I strongly believe that a horse and rider team is only going to be as strong as they both are together. So think about like the quote, like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Yeah, you know what? People, we, the riders, are usually the weakest link. We always blame it on the horse, or the horse is green, or the horse is this, that, and the other. They know how to move, we get in the way. So when you're ready, we're gonna take that leg, we're kicking forward and to the back, keeping the hips nice and steady, the spine nice and steady. So yeah, moving the same way we expect our horses to move. And then as well, posture is super fluid. So when you're thinking posture, don't think I have to be straight as a board like a soldier, because you know what, that's not how posture works. You need to be able to adapt and you need to be able to move. You're gonna do this last one here. All the way back, and then over top the other leg, and then we're going to go straight up and down. So inhaling up, exhaling back on down, maintaining those hips, maintaining that space in between your waist and the mat. And just notice, maybe this leg is weaker than the other side, maybe it's your stronger leg. Maybe it's got more range. We're going to do this last one here, and coming back on down, and then we're going to be doing our 3 circles. So kicking forward, maintaining those hips, maintaining the shoulders. And once you've done your third one here, we're going to reverse. All the way to the back, all the way up. Nice. And last one here. Awesome. So from here, we're just going to lay down onto our stomach, and we're going to do some extensions. So, as I was saying, posture is super fluid. So as your horse is moving each leg, you'll feel your hips shift and pick up and move. And you've got to be able to move with that while still maintaining that steady balance point. So next time you're on your horse, maybe in a arena, preferably, have like a little Zen moment, like whether you completely close your eyes because you completely trust your horse, or even partially, and just really focus on feeling which leg is moving and what your hips naturally want to do. And then just have that little sensation of that little pulling up and zipping up of your abs. Not 110%, you don't need to feel like you're a soldier and you're holding everything together. Because you know what? No one can hold everything together. I think this pandemic has proved that. Just that little engagement through your abs, relaxing those shoulders, and just let your hips move, but maintaining the steady balance through your pubic bone. And then see how that feels, and feel that fluidity within your hips and your posture. Hands are going to come down by your chest. Feet are going to be about hip distance apart. You may have seen in other videos, I'd say that they're together, but for this case, we're going to leave them about hip distance apart. And I want you to think, before you even press with your hand, lifting yourself up as high as you possibly can, then use those hands to extend. And then exhaling as you come back on down. One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to add extensions into this video is because a lot of the times when we're sitting in our saddles, a lot of people slump. We just hunch forward and we lean on the shoulders and we wonder why our horse won't pick up its feet. It's silly. It's my tendency too. That's why I feel totally okay with like calling us out, because you know what? I'm just as bad as everyone else. We're going to do this last one here. And all the way back on down. Cool. So, moving up the body, shoulders. A lot of people when they ride, again, they've got to brace it all together, or they're holding all this tension in their shoulders. And I want you to just like let it loose and let it move. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hands down by our side, and we're going to pick those arms up, and it's like we're going to reach for the back of the room, and then exhale as we come back on down. So lifting those shoulders up, reaching through those fingers, exhale as you come back on down. So really opening up your chest and engaging your back. We're going to do one last one. Awesome, and then we're going to bring those arms out into a T. We're going to lift them up as high as we can, pull those pinkies back towards each other, and then return back into our T, coming back fairly neutral. And then again, inhaling up and back, exhaling forward. We do one last one here. Nice. And then we're going to bring those hands overhead. And we're going to work up here. A lot of people, because they get so tight in their traps, which travel all the way up your neck, into your shoulders, and down your back, a lot of people find it really difficult to lift their hands up over their head. If this is you, don't worry, just try to be as light as you can and slide your hands along the mat or the floor. If you can lift them up, awesome. Try to lift them up and engage down your back so you're not feeling it in your neck. And we'll kind of go through that in a second. So you're going to put your forehead down on the mat. Arms are going to be out. You're going to think about lifting them up as if you're maybe got something in between your hands and pulling it over your head and then back on up. If you like imagery, the thing that I always think of is if I have some sort of funny hat and I'm pulling it to put it on my head and then putting it back. So when you're ready, putting that hat on, pull those shoulder blades back and down, and then taking the hat back on off again. And if you're feeling this in your neck, think about engaging those shoulder blades, engaging those lats, and pulling up from underneath. We're going to do one last one here. And all the way back on up. Nice. Okay. So then we are going to lay down on our back, and we're going to do a little bit of abdominal movements. So starting on your back, and I want you to find a neutral spine. I always like to put air quotations around neutral because everybody's body is different. So for me, a neutral spine is about my 2 fingers in between the mat and kind of the highest part in the arch of my back. Some people like 3 fingers, some people are only a 1 finger kind of person. Don't take that out of context. So from here, I want you to think about maintaining that. So you're going to have a little bit of ab engagement, but again, you don't need 110%. So you shouldn't feel like you're bracing for the end of the world. Actually, I'm going to bring my hands up over my head so then you can see a little bit of what my spine wants to do. But you can have your hands down by your side. And then all we're going to do is maintain that, lifting up one leg and then placing it back on down. Super, super simple. You think we got to do this while riding. Again, it's that idea of picking up the leg to get move away from the shoulder rather than, or I say move away from the shoulder. It's like I pick up the leg to bump them over, say to go right. Nice. But by picking up the leg, you maintain that balance point. And if there is any shift in your weight, it would actually be to the back, which is more ideal anyways, because that's where their power comes from too, right? And then if this feels easy, maintain it while picking up both legs and putting down both legs. And you'll feel the abs engage so much more. Try to maintain that same long spine. I know that's simple movements, but you gotta really be mindful. And the more this becomes second nature, the less you're going to have to think about it when you are riding. And if all of this sounds super foreign to you, I am more than happy to go into more depth, but there will be a second video to this coming out that's going to go a little more into it too. We're going to do one last one there, and then come on up. So, placing those feet down, you're going to cross one leg over the other. Your knees are going to be fairly close together. And then I want you to think about keeping both shoulder blades down and letting your hips and your legs twist. So different way of thinking about twisting. You only go as far as you can keep the opposite shoulder down on the mat. Exhale to pull back on up. Notice maybe you've dropped your back down onto the mat. Find that neutral position. We're just twisting, nothing's curling, nothing's extending. Hopefully it's not. Only you'll know. We're going to do one more on both sides with this twist here. Let your spine twist, but nothing else. Nice. Okay, come back on up. You're going to untwist, twist the other leg on over, and then we're going to send the knees over to one side. Maybe you've got more range on this side, and maybe you've got less. Awesome. And then when you come on up, we're going to untwist. And then we're going to do a little bit of single leg circle. So single leg circle is a classical Pilates move. Again, you've got that little bit of neutral spine here. So you've got that little bit of space in between your low back and the mat. We're going to have our one leg down, the other leg's going to come up towards the ceiling. I don't care if the leg's bent, if it's straight, if it's straight up, if it's diagonal, does not matter to me. What I want you to focus on is keeping the leg in whatever position it was when you started, and then twisting through the spine and maintaining the shoulders, because that's the main goal here. So maintain the leg, maintain the upper body, you twist all the way around, you pull all the way on up. And when you're going out to that other side, so out to the outside here, keep those hips steady. You're not rocking backwards and forwards, but the hip can pick up when you cross. And then the hips stay steady. And then we're going to reverse that. Hips stay steady as you send the leg out. And then they can pick up as you go. Maintaining that neutral spine. And one last one. Nice. Bending in. The leg can come down and then we're switching. So, coming on up. Crossing the body, the hip can pick up. Shoulders stay down. Maintain those steady hips as you circle out to the outside. We're just doing those 3 in both ways. And just finding that nice big range and that strength there. Which is easier said than done. You know what? Finding strength in your fullest range is so much harder than picking up, say, a bale of hay and just bicep curling it from here to here. And last one here. Bending in. Nice. So you can hide those legs in for a quick second. Release those hip flexors. And then we are going to come into a low lunge. So we're going to take one leg. It's going to go out fairly far in front of us. And I want your knee to come over and stack over top of the ankle. The goal is to squeeze this back glute and stretch in our hip flexors. I promised there would be hip flexor stretches for all of those tight riders. So again, really squeezing those glutes, really pushing the hips forward. And if you'd like more out of this stretch, you can think about back bending back a little bit, and you can even pressing a little bit with this hand. I think really solid mobility is super important for riders. I mean, it's super important for all athletes to be able to go out to your fullest range and find even just the littlest bit of strength there. Because it's when you have that passive flexibility or hypermobility, in my case, I've got hypermobile shoulders, that's when you get injuries and repetitive strains and bad movement patterns. But if you can find just that little bit of strength in your full range, I mean, if you were to fall off, you're less likely to get hurt. I mean, in reality, you're less likely to fall off if you have your strength in your fullest range. So even if your limbs are feeling out of control, you should be able to pull it or rein it back in. And then you're going to carefully come on up. You're going to sit your hips back, pull back on those toes, or flex your foot and have a little lean forward. Should feel like a stretch maybe through your calf, maybe into your hamstring and glute. Even here, think about lifting up in your abs just a little bit, just enough that you feel supported through your spine and you're not just like slumped and hanging out. Nice, and then you're going to carefully release that leg. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So starting off with that low lunge, send your hips forward. Gotta adjust my knee there for a second. So you're trying to get that knee over top of your ankle, squeezing that back glute, maybe even arching your back just a little bit, get a deeper stretch. And see, even here, it would be easy enough to just kind of like relax into it and get a good enough stretch to your hip flexor, but by squeezing your glute and working for that little bit of a depth in your stretch, you're teaching your body to use your glutes in order to support and to build range in your hip flexors rather than you letting gravity force you to stretch them out. This is super important when you're riding as well, because you think if you were to lift your leg or try to lift your leg without having any sort of support from underneath, it would just grab in your quads and grab in your hip flexors, and you're just going to make the entire situation feel worse. So when you're thinking about lifting those legs or moving them out to the side or anything, you've got to have the support from underneath, so that little bit of a squeeze from your glutes and your hamstrings, enough to pick it up. Obviously, the main movers are going to be through the top, but enough that it feels like it's supported from underneath. We'll kind of play around with that in a second through our back and our spine, if that doesn't make any sense. So then we're going to sit back, pull back on those toes or flex your foot, little forward bend. And again, it's your abs squeezing that supports your back so that you're not just kind of like hanging out in your spine. So we'll always have that little engagement there. I could stay here all day. Get really quiet because it just feels so good. And then when you're ready, you're going to carefully release that. So now we're going to come onto our hands and knees. If hands and knees doesn't feel right, fists and knees, and if that still doesn't feel right, you can always sit back and just be light on your hands and do a couple here. We're just going to do a couple cat-cows, just to kind of rethink about how not only the horse works, but how muscles work as partners anyways. So as we cat, we're thinking about pushing through the shoulders and squeezing the abs, and that's what lifts our back up. And when we lift our back up, it's really easy to move our legs out from underneath us. So that's how a horse works, is basically they lift their abs, obviously not to this extent, but they think about lifting their abs, so it's really easy for you to move backwards and forwards. You do not have to crawl around on the floor, but it is a really good insight. Like if you were to crawl around with your abs engaged versus just hanging on your back and it feels kind of slumpy. So then in extension, and then if you were to lift your head and extend your back, then you could see that it's actually really hard for you to lift up your legs and get underneath you, and it kind of causes, or in a horse, it would cause short steps, maybe rearing, because that's so easy when you're like this. Yeah, so it's worth playing around. I know it looks silly, but you know what? In the Pirelli camp, we actually used to sit on each other's backs and say, what does this feel like? And you know, that's one of the ways that we learned, and it's really, really insightful. And you know what? It's always a fun time. So from there, we are just going to come now into a bit of a groin stretch. So you're going to bring those knees fairly far apart. The toes are pointed together a little bit more, and coming down onto your elbows. And you're just going to sit those hips back, and then coming on forward. You can just kind of let that sit in your brain for a little bit and see how they move and why it's so important for us to be able to be in balance with them. In order to get out of their way so they can do their best job, as well as, you know, it's all a goal to be able to ride just with your seat anyway. So in order to accomplish that, first we need to find where our seat really is and find where we're sitting comfortably in the center, in balance with them, not too far forward, not too far back, and only then will we be able to refine those little movements. Now we're going to have that last press back there, and then carefully press those legs on together, and then come into a little butterfly to finish off. So those feet are going to come together, his hands can wrap around, roll the shoulder blades back, and just think about sitting up nice and tall, and pressing into those legs, maybe leaning forward with your chest and coming on up. And again, we're setting our chest over top of our feet, we're not leaning over trying to sniff our toes. Then coming back on up and pressing over. And then, so while we're doing this little stretch, little final notes. So later on this week, we're going to be doing another video that's going to be a little bit more of exercises. We're actually going to be on a exercise ball. If you don't have an exercise ball, a rolly chair would be great. Just sitting on any old chair. You won't get quite the same feedback as being on a round ball, but you will still get quite a lot of feedback, so anything works. And then from there, we are going to talk a little bit more about how we can stay and find that balance and work on that without being on our horse for 15 hours a day. And then coming back on up. Okay, so later on this week, We're gonna work on our balance point, finding that, how to cue around it, and just kind of like re-exploring all those things. And just like being able to laugh at ourselves and how much we really do get in the way of our horses, because you know what, you gotta be able to laugh. It's all a journey. It's called a practice, not a perfect, because we will forever be practicing. So don't skip out on this stuff, especially if you're having any sort of pains or discomforts or something doesn't feel like it's quite clicking with you and your horse, because I really, really do believe that 90% of the time it's going to be posture. And it's going to be our posture that's affecting their posture. So you know what? Try doing this stuff with the sack of spuds on your back, and I'll tell you, it doesn't feel great. So if you're sitting like that and you're just like slumped down here, that's what it's going to feel like to them. I know it's not a nice thing to say, but we've all been there. We've all been that person. So we got to move past it and keep moving forward into our awesome, lifted, movable future. Okay, so thank you very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Okay, very good job. Bye.